2, 4, 6, 8, 9. Okay, so let's start. Last time we did all the basics of Bootstrap, so where we get it, how we put it on our website, and also do the basic styling elements like buttons and headings and paragraphs, block quotes, all that. So today we're going to navigation elements. And for that, I opened already in our segment number 3, navigation, the basic navigation file. I'll give you guys a second to open that one. Okay, and in there we have like our unordered list here with some links and some content. And if we look in our file, here in the body, we have our container, then we have a row for the navigation and the content, and everything is one column. And with 12 grid columns, so it fills the whole page. Then we have here the unordered list with the list items. And in order to, let's talk about navigation. In Bootstrap, there are 4 navigation things, but actually there are only 3 different navigations. So one is the parent element. It's for all other 3, and it's called navs. And inside there can be then use tabs, pills, and nav bar. And let's start with playing a little bit around it. So to make our unordered list here a proper navigation, let's put a class here to the unordered list. And that class is called nav, N-A-V. So with that, we already see that everything changed up here. Everything is inline and no block elements anymore. And to the list items itself, we have to add some classes. Okay. And here we need to put nav/item. Okay. And then to the anchor tags, we have to also apply a class. And this one is nav-link. And voila, we have our navigation. So that's basic navigation that you have, or that you should do if you want to use Bootstrap for it. If you don't want to use it this way, let's uncomment. So here we're having an unordered list items, and inside the list items, we have anchor tags. And there's an alternative way to do it. It's the one I have done here. So where you have a nav tag and just single anchor tags in it. So we don't have an unordered list and we don't have the list items. So for that here, in the nav, we use the class of nav. Okay. And then here in the anchor tag class, we have to apply both the nav item and the nav link. That is the difference.
So is the second way like the easier way to do it? Would you say that's shorter?
Yes, no. Some prefer this way, some prefer that. You know, it's personal preference.
Okay.
If you want to have it as an unordered list, or just with the navigation element and anchor text.
So it doesn't matter. Yeah. Okay.
So it really doesn't matter, and also styling wise doesn't matter. It's just where you put the two classes. So here you split them up, and down here you put them together. But the only
Sounds good.
Okay.
Thank you.
A question. Good. Okay. Then you also can apply extra elements, like, for example, the one that you're actually on, you could give an active. Here we don't see actually a difference because we have the very plain one, but with the other navigations, you see that it is highlighted a little different. And for example, if you are on one page and this is a navigation, it's the same for all pages. But for, let's say an example, for not logged in users, you're not allowed to click that menu item. Then you could give another class disabled. Okay. And then you see it's highlighted different, and you don't get the pointer finger when you hover over it. Okay, so in order to make it, in order to make it one of the other, the Nav pills or tabs, you just come here and add another class to the outer one, Nav-pills, and then you see that you get this nice button-like structure around it. And that's all the difference there is with Nav pills. And there's also Nav tabs. If you use this one, you have the outline and the, it's not a horizontal rule, it's a border bottom around the navigation. And it's just highlighted different. So this is the basic navigation. You could also use here another class in here to position it different on the page, like justify content center, for example. And then you have the navigation centered, or end, or start, or justified. Then it's spread out equally. These are the positioning options you have there. And so, and then we can take all that out, and I'll show you something else. So you can also use flex elements for that. Flex column. Then they're structured on top of each other. And then if you want to make that different, then you could say flex small row. Okay, so the navigation would look the same for bigger screens. And as soon as you go down to the cell phone level, you have the block structure like you have on the cell phones usually. So that's how you could make this navigation be decent on cell phones without using the navigation bar, the Nav bar. Questions to that?
Yeah, can you make the column with tabs too?
Column with tab?
No, tabs.
Oh, the flex one?
Yeah.
Haven't tried that, but Up. Yeah. So that's the easiest way to do that. Okay. As I learned now too, you can do that with Flex too. Okay. Then we could make a navigation bar out of it. Let's take that one all out again here. So we have the plain one, and now let's add a Nav Bar. So that's the next one. You see immediately it's spread out over the whole width we have. Then you could give easily a different background. So BG-light and Nav Bar-light. So then you see the very light gray background. And it's also resizing itself. But as you see here, it's not mobile already. So for Nav Bar, you usually do more. So, and then here around the links, we do a div around all the links. And the div has a class of Nav Bar Nav. Okay, and we see the style changing again. And then to the anchor tags, we add nav item. I think we have to take all these out. Because now we're doing the nav bar, and that has all its own classes. So, where are we here? Nav-item, and then also nav-link. Okay, or been before. And then here to the nav up here. If we want to have it look decent for bigger sizes, we can add another class, and this one is nav bar hyphen expand, and then the screen size SM. So that kind of get the same mobile menu with the nav bar, which is not really a full mobile menu because you don't get the hamburger icon to expand that one. But this is the basic functionality behind it. And I want to build with you more and more into the nav bar till we have a full nav bar. So the first time you copy in the code and want to change something, you know where to go. So, okay. Over here. Okay. Did I have that one here? Okay. This should have been in that file. And you see that the navigation is not in the container. Let me show you guys quick that one here again. And I'm lazy. So now to what I wanted to show you. Here you see that the navigation is outside of the container, and the gray bar behind, let's use a different color here. Yeah. The green bar now is spreading the whole width. So if I don't want to have the navigation having the whole width of the page, I can simply put it in a div with a class of container. But if I want to have the green bar extend the whole page of the width, but the navigation buttons not, then I have to put the container inside the navigation here. And now the navigation, I hate these, in navigation is exactly as wide as the content form because it's within the container. So you kind of have everything looking the same. So it's not spreading more or less. It always starts at the same point on the page. Does everybody understand that? Okay. So then here we can add our active, for example. And then you see the home is a little darker than the others. And the same with the disabled one. And then here, by the way, that class here just came with Bootstrap 4 and is so much nicer to give the navigation background than before. Oh, it's horrible. Now you also can easily just, let's put here some style. That got really easier too with Bootstrap 4. We could just go and tag the nav element here, for example, and just give it a different background color. And take that class away. And that is really also so much easier than it was before. So be lucky you didn't have to do that in Bootstrap 3. Okay. So basic navigation, nav bar we have done. Then we can add some other elements. So for that, let's open the brand and text HTML. So where we're putting the next things into our navigation. Okay, so here we have the same already than before, just with dark and the container and the nav bar. So between the container and the div with the class of nav bar nav, here, we have to add a div with a class of nav bar brand for our branding. And here you could put text or logos in there. So let's start with some text. This is us. Okay, so you see it's pretty highlighted here. It is on the left side of the navigation. And if you want to make it clickable, we can just change the div to an anchor tag. And do not forget to add a hyperreference. And if we put nothing in there, just a hashtag. And with that, it's already clickable. So, and you don't have to put text in here. You can put whatever you want. As I just said before, we could just put an image there. Let's pick some famous Monday. Why do you not like me? Okay. SVGs and their own rules. They have to have a width or a height at least to be visible. So that easy to just put an icon or logo or whatever image you want to put there. So then we can put extra text in here. So here we have our anchor tag. And at the end of div bar nav here, we can add a span. Okay. In here, we could put some other text. Okay. And in order to make it look nice, because the nav bar has its own padding and margins, so we have to use class again. And this one is nav bar -text. And voila, you have regular text in here. If you want to put any other text in here. And of course, we can put different display methods for different screen sizes for all our elements there. Let's say here, for example, for our logo, we add here to the whole thing another class, where we make it display none, so d-none. But we wanna, so this is now not displaying from cell phone size up, but we wanna make it visible as soon as we get into a little bigger screen size where we have more space in the navigation bar. So this would be D for display hyphen, then the screen size, I pick small, and then inline block. So as soon as I'm here in the cell phone size, it's not there. And as soon as I'm bigger, I get the icon, logo, whatever you want to call it. And the same you could do with the text here. We could also say here, display none. And then for bigger screen sizes, let's make display XL inline block. And then we have the text here. And as soon as we get a little smaller, we have it disappear. So you can play with the elements in your navigation depending on how much space you have in your navigation bar when you're looking for smaller and bigger screen sizes. There is a rule of thumb. You should not have more than 9, and so between 5 and 9 elements in the navigation bar. So you shouldn't expand it with everything you have. So if you have more than between 7 and 9, so it said the best setting is 7 navigation tabs plus minus 2. So if you're going into more, then you would make drop-down menu. So put it under the other menu items. So in order to not fill out the whole navigation bar with every single page you have. Speaking of drop-downs, let's go to the next file I provided. It's the drop-down one. And there we have the same navigation again. And let's shift the whole thing to the right. So for that, we go here into the div with the class of Nav Bar Nav and just add a rule for margin left. And then as soon as we're not in the cell phone size, so SM for small, and then the magic word auto. And then with that, we have the navigation right aligned as soon as we're bigger than cell phone size. Then let's create a drop down for the about here. In order to achieve that, we have to put a div around the anchor tag. So div with a class of dropdown. And let's just put that one in here. So nothing happened so far, but we're having it in here. Now we have to go to the anchor tag and add another class for this. And this is the class of dropdown toggle. And with that, we're getting the little caret symbol up here. Okay, see some typing going on. Okay, So if we do that, we also want to be nice to the screen readers and to our handicapped person. For that, we have to put some other elements in here. I'll put that into a new row. And now we're using data hyphen toggle. And this one is drop down. So whenever you see data hyphen something in HTML, it is mostly used to give JavaScript a hook where JavaScript can grab this element and do something with it. And actually you can write your own one. So the only required thing is data hyphen, and then you can name it whatever you want to name it afterwards. Okay, so that's the JavaScript. Then we also give it an ID. And let's call that one about dropdown. That one is already for the screen readers so that they have something to connect with the area label. Then we have area has pop-up. Because it has a pop-up, it's true. And then another one for the screen readers, area hyphen and expanded. And this time it's false because it is not expanded at the moment when you load the page. So the last three things we put in here is all only for screen readers. So, and now, after the anchor tag, we have to create the other content that we want to have in the dropdown. So for that, let's create here another div with a class of dropdown menu. Okay. And we need to add some other things here. Again, for screen readers, area labeled by. And here we have to put the ID in. And the safest way to not have a typo is to copy it. Okay. And inside the div, we create the other menu items we want to have displayed. And that is simply anchor tags. Okay, with the class of drop-down item. Okay. And let's create that one here. For the href, we give our nothing in there again, and then the displayed ones in here. Okay, so if I go here, it's of course not. So you see, we already have our element in here. And if you want to have multiple ones under it, everyone good? Is it working for everyone?
How do I see that it's dropping down on Dreamweaver, or do I have to open up in the browser?
You have to open up in the browser. There is, I think, with Control or Command clicking, you could. Yeah, for me it's on a Mac it's Command, but
yeah, Control works. Yeah, it works.
Dreamweaver does not like JavaScript interactions too much while displaying the stuff. So it's always safe to go in the browser. Okay, everyone, yeah?
Thank you. No, perfect, thank you.
Everyone good with that? Okay, then let me put that back to my state for the next class. Okay. Okay. Then we also can put form elements in our navigation bar. So for that, let's open the form elements file. And then we're basically at our basic navigation here again. And in order to put form elements in there, let's go here after the div. So let's make a little more space so you see better. Okay. So for that, we have to put a form in here and action and method if we're doing something for real. Okay. Or this one could be get. For example. And inside the form here, we then have to put the input element. But for in the form tag, we have to also use a class to display it proper. So, and that one is class form inline. Okay. We're seeing a little bit more of that one when we're doing our form and styles section. And so we have that here. And then now inside the form, we have to put something to do. So an input. Let's start here. Input. And we need a type of text. Then let's put a placeholder in there. Search. And then we need to add a class to make it look nice. And this one is form control. Okay. So voila, we have our search field here, but so far we can't activate it. We don't have a button. Let's do that one in the next line. Button with a class of button. And then let's be funky, button, outline, light. Okay. Then whenever we have a button, we need a type of button. Then whatever we want to show to the user, and then close the button. So if we don't want to have them touching so much, then we could give the input margin, so margin right 2, and we have a little spacing in between. Okay, that's pretty easy, right? So now we can make our whole navigation position a little different on the website. So by default now it's on top, and when I scroll, it goes out. I can give it a position fixed top. Let's go here to the navigation tag, so the nav, and let's add another class here. So fixed top. And immediately we have this one fixed. So we can, or not, because we don't have the page big enough. We can scroll now, but it all is the top of our page here, the heading 2, and the half of the first sentence is below our navigation bar, which is not ideal. So for that, we would have to write a little CSS. Just to push the content a little down. So this, where do we have that one in here? Div with a class of container. This is not good. Let's add here another class. And then position. Margin. Top. So 80 pixels. And with that, we would have made the difference up here and pushed it a little down. That's the issue with sticky top or bottom. Everyone done?
Could you show the code for the search bar? Mine didn't get small for some reason. It's still taking up the whole space. I don't know why mine is so big.
Okay. I have the form started after the navigation bar nav div.
Yeah.
Okay, but still inside the container. This is that div here.
Yes. Okay.
Okay. Then the class of form inline you have on the form tag.
Class equals form inline. Yes.
Okay. And written the right way to, is there a typo?
That's what I'm looking for. Yeah, it should be fine. Yeah.
Because it happens to be this way if I have typo there. So then on the input one, I have a class of form control.
Yes.
And on the button, I have nothing special.
Yeah, I don't know. It's just doesn't want to change for me, but
Oh,
it's okay.
Did you click in here? Once?
Yeah, and it's not updating, so I don't know. This is weird.
It is not.
Yeah, it's just the same. I don't know. Everything English-wise looks fine. I don't know. Maybe I messed up somewhere else. I'm not sure. I'll keep looking. You don't have to stop class for me.
Yeah. Usually it's a typo somewhere or a missing space or one too much.
Yeah, I'm gonna play around with it a little bit. Feel free to continue.
Don't invest too much time because
No, of course.
because now we're going to the masterpiece of the navigation bar, the collapsible content. And let's go to the other file for that one, the collapsible content. And so you don't have to remember all that, how it's set up 100% in future, okay? You go to getbootstrap.com and let me show that. So if I here documentation, is it navigation, where is it in? Nav Bar. And then here, I would go with that here and copy it. And put it in here. So if you ever find a typo, just go to get Bootstrap, okay? Okay, then here the collapsible content. So here is a navigation bar. It has some anchor tag with branding here and the menu on the right. But as soon as I get smaller, here it starts breaking. The design starts breaking. You see that suddenly we have 2 lines for about us and contact us. And if we get even smaller, then it gets really weird looking. So, and we can fix that. So now we have to create a little bit more here in order to make that all work. So around the nav bar nav, where we have this here, the div with the nav bar nav, where the anchor tags are inside, we have to add a div. Let's do it nice. Div with a class of collapse. Okay. So this is the content inside the div will be the content that will be collapsed when we're getting too small. And we also need other classes in here. The one is nav bar collapse. And then we need also an ID to have the JavaScript know where to nitpicky the stuff. And the ID, let's call it my toggler nav. Okay. And then after the nav bar here, we put the closing div in. Let me put it all in. Oops, too much. Okay. So now we're having the items in there. Then after the nav bar brand, before that, so in here, we have to create the hamburger icon button. So after nav bar brand, yeah, here. So here we put the button with a class of nav bar toggler, a type of button. Okay, and for our JavaScript friends, we need the data hyphen toggle of collapse. Then also the data target. And then we need the ID that we put in here. Okay, let's put the JavaScript ones in one line. And then we have an extra line for our screen reader friends, area hyphen controls. So, and this is my toggler nav again. And area expanded is false. And also area label, just label by toggle navigation. Okay, let's put that a little nicer. It is a very wordy button. It's a lot of stuff to put in. So inside the button, so this is the opening, this is the opening tag, this is the closing tag. So inside here, we have to put a span. Okay. And the span has to have a class of Nav Bar toggler icon. So, and with that, we see that our style of the navigation is a little broken. It swims to the left. And by the way, with Bootstrap 3, you had to put 3 of these span tags in, one for every line of the hamburger. And in order to make the navigation go to the right side again, we have to go to the div with the class of Nav Bar Nav here and add a margin left auto. Okay. Everyone good? Okay, so now, slow computer today. Now if we go smaller and smaller and we go to the cell phone size, we suddenly get the hamburger icon here. And when I click it, it comes down this way. So do you guys understand how these two things work together? So the button is here, and by JavaScript, it only appears in the cell phone size. And if you click it, it targets that ID to open. And this is the ID we're having here. And then this navigation gets expanded. And if we're bigger than cell phone size, the button gets hidden with JavaScript and the navigation is not collapsed anymore and is there in its beauty and full size. Okay. So voila, navigation. With that, let's come to the next more fun way to play around with the layout component. So number 4. And let's start with the big one, the Jumbotron. So here we're just having a page, a big headline, some content, and then some smaller bits and pieces there. And we are making this first thing here into a Jumbotron. So what is a Jumbotron? Jumbotron is basically a big gray box that draws your attention. So for that, in my example here, let's go to the header tag and just give it a class of Jumbotron. Okay. And voila, we have our big gray box that draws some attention in there. So the content in there is grabbed together. It keeps your attention. You usually have a call to action button here somewhere, or an image and a lot of nothingness with just a few words and the button, or just something that draws your attention and not overpowers you. So a lot of white space is usually good. If you look at some of the modern websites, you see they all work with a lot of empty space around to have your view focus on the points that they want. Okay, so this Jumbotron is within the container. That's why it's having the same width than every other element in the container. If I put it outside of the container, it just is bigger. There is also a fluid, Jumbotron fluid, that pretty much does the same. It is like the fluid container compared to the regular container. So here, and to grab a little more attention, we could put a margin top there just to have it a little bit styled. So, and just when I show you, if I put the container here outside, so the Jumbotron is not in the container, then it's just spreading the whole page. And if I would like again, I can put just a container in here. So like this. So now I have the big gray box and the container inside. By default, the Jumbotron has, I barely can see that here, has some rounded corners. So if you get rid of them, you have to use the Jumbotron fluid. Okay. Everyone understands everything about Jumbotron. Okay, that's all there is to Jumbotrons. Okay, then our fun part again, tables. I know you all love tables. That's why we're typing one. No, I did one for you guys. So, basic table, we have table, table head, table rows. And then we have here the table headers, which are the centered content and bold. And in here, I also have scope attribute. Did I explain to you guys what scope is? No, okay. This is also for screen readers to help people understand if it's a bigger table where they actually are inside the table. So if that's a scope of columns, so for example, capital. So if I'm somewhere in here and the screen reader reads that content, Graz, so it's the capital of Styria, so then you would say, okay, Graz, Styria, capital. You know, it puts because I have a scope of row here too for Styria. So if you're in here, then the screen reader would remember that this is the content for that row, and this is the content in addition for that column, for that element you're in. Because imagine if you can see the table and it's a really big one and you're tapping through it, so sooner or later you don't know where you actually really are. So this is the scope row and column is helping screen readers to figure out where they are and then help the handicapped person to understand the table. Okay. So then to make table being a Bootstrap table, we have to add a class, something new, and the class is called table. Voila. It suddenly has some styling to it. It's nicely spaced out. You get these extra lines, and it's more visual appealing. So then you can also give another class, table dark, and then you have a dark themed table. Okay, let's go back to the regular one. Then to every row we could give different colors, so this is also done with the class for the table row, and the class is called table hyphen and then the color, like primary. Then we have blue background. Over here, class table success. You get the idea. Then if you only want to do something for the table head alone, you can do that too. But this class is called table head. And there you can go dark or light. Then another style for the table would be striped. So then table striped. And then you're getting these gray and white stripes down the table in order to make it read easier if you have very long tables. Something also good is, but it doesn't work very well with striped tables, is if you have a table hover. And then whenever you hover over one element, you can make it appear on hover. Then there is something else. It's table bordered. To give the table borders. You don't have to bother with CSS for that. And if you want to make it a little smaller, you can give it a table small, SM. So then it has less spacing. It's a little more condensed. And you could even make it a table responsive. Okay. That shrinks it down as much as it can and tries to avoid scrolling. But you know, there is a limit to what it can do. If it gets too small, you get the horizontal scroll bar, okay? So it's not superpower, it's just nice. And of course, you could also give the table only a responsive for certain screen sizes and up, like table responsive medium, so from medium up. Okay. Yay. Okay. Then after tables, let's go to the basic cards. Very big style element for Bootstrap are cards. And card is a little group together content. So let me find a nice example for you here. Like here, for example, you see that often if you subscribe for a plan, you have like usually like 3 cards next to each other. One says basic, pro, and commercial or something like this, and different prices in there and different information. So the whole thing here is a card, and then you can put different kind of content inside. So here I just have the cards very big. And now we will start to play with them a little bit. Actually, I did already. Okay. More for me to talk. Do you guys have that here too already in the section, the card class? No? Yeah, you can type it. Okay. So you guys go here to the section and put a class there. And in the class, you put the class of card. And with that, you're getting, show you here, a light border around the whole content. And the content is all a little aligned in itself. Okay. Then for the image, let me make mine a little smaller here. Yeah. Okay, so you guys see a little bit. So here now you also see the little gray border around the stuff. Then you can add an image inside here. And okay, image is not. So, and for the image, to put that in the card and have it nicely played in there, you add the class of card image, img. So that makes it fit nice inside the card. Then we're having a heading 2 in here. And to the heading 2, you add the class of card title. And then we have some different spacing here. For the heading 5, this would be a subtitle. So it's card subtitle. And the paragraph would be the card text. Okay. And then I even have some links in here, and there should be a class to align them proper, which is card link. Okay, except the first one. Why not? Why is it doing it for the other ones except the first one? Card link. Okay. This is probably because we don't have a card body around them. So let's put a card body in there. And that would be in the section. So for the whole thing, let's put there a div with the class of card body. Yeah, and voila, they are next to each other. They're just not aligning nicely because I made them so much smaller. Okay, then cards also can have background. BG. Danger. Can have it like this. So all kinds of easy way to play around with it. So for example, if you use primary, then we could go to the anchor tags and add another class of text light. And of course you can change the border. Doesn't come good with the primary background. So you can have different border colors. So easy ways to play around with it. Okay, so then there is more with cards. Let's go to the card content file. Okay, so here is a little bit better how they look like. And now we can add some other things to make more separate styling in there. So here in the section for the card, before the div with the card of body, we can add another div with the class of header. Okay. And then we can, for example, put the heading 2 and heading 5 in there. So for that, I just take that and push it up there. Okay, so I have the header here. Then let's put the 3 links into a card footer div with the class of card footer. So that they get their extra box. Then you could take the image out of the card body. And before the header, for example. So then we have like this styled, where we have the image, the full width of the card. And here the nice footer section, a little different spacing for the headers. And then here, if this is outside, we can give the class of card image top there. Card image top. And there's also card image bottom and the card image overlay, just to have different styles to play with. So, and for example, the 3 items, we could grab into a list group in there. And we remembered that one, div with the class of list group. Now our styling is broken again, so we have to fix that a little bit. We have the 3 links, and we give them a class of list group item. Of course. So for that, then we don't need the the list group and this inside the card body. Still. Why? And for the list group, there is a class to make it flush. So it's list group flush, and that takes advantage of that here. So you make a list group at the bottom. I know this is too much information at once. Okay, any questions to that kind with cards and playing around with this? There is more you can do with cards, but I don't want to stress you guys out with that one. You can make card groups and so on. So you can group them together and then have them styled. if you're going that route once, I highly recommend looking just into the Get Bootstrap documentation. Okay, tail mirror. So we did pretty much everything here. Media objects. Let's scrap that one here quick. Okay, so it's kind of similar to cards, but it's not. So you can do different things with it. You can style it different, and you don't have the gray border around and all this special styling for the cards. So I have everything here in sections, so you can just add a class to the section, and the class is media. Okay, and by default then it's aligned next to each other, so all the elements are in columns instead of in rows. And then let's resize the image a little bit with a class of W for width, and then 25 for 25%. Okay. Then let's put a div around the two headings. And the div has to have a class of media body, media-body. Okay. With that, they get a little different spacing and layout again. And then let's give them a little more margin at the bottom. So at the section, I just add a little margin for the bottom, MB4, just to have some breathing room. So then to the image, we can also add another class with a margin right of 3, so that our headlines are not immediately touching our image. We have a little space there. And then to move the image up and down, we can put display flex on there. Okay. Have to make that even smaller, I guess. I guess we see that here better. I think that's better for you guys to see. Okay, so we have a display flex on the image, and then we can give it another class, and the class is called align self. And then let's choose for the first one center. And then you see that the image is centered within its content. And I also can give it an end. Then it would be at the bottom. Or start. Then it's on the default at the top again. Okay. And then I can play more with how I want to set it up for different screen sizes, and if I want to have the flex only for the small screen sizes and the other display for the bigger screen sizes. And so your possibilities are growing with everything I show you. Any questions to cards, media, objects? No. Then we're coming to our next big topic, and that is forms. And let's start with the basic forms. So here I have a little form. I put it in container, row, columns, and then put a Jumbotron in it to have the gray background. I have heading 2 here, and then the form starts. And I also group them together in field sets. So the owner with headline here with these 2 input fields is in one field set, and then the bike information is in one field set, and then is the submit button, and then closing of everything. So something you haven't seen before here also is the legend tag. That is kind of like a headline in a form or a label for a field set. And I always also try to have diffs around every single pair of label and input, because then you can group them together and style them together better. So then let's start putting a little fun in there. To add a little proper spacing for the whole form, let's put a class of form group to the field sets. And on all diffs, okay? So class of form group. And that changed our spacing a little bit. So then let's give all our email text select and text area. So I think that's pretty much all input fields. So that one. A class of form control. Okay. So this one was text. Email. So, and now we have spaced out everything nicer, equal. So now we have to also give proper classes to our labels. And that class is form control label. So then we have some extra field where we have a small tag with some extra information. Here, that one. And to that one, we can add the class of form text and text muted. Form text. And then, what does it? Text muted. So which makes it not pop out so much. Okay. Then for the button, let's put a style on the button here. So then on the button, we need class of button and button primary. So then we have that one nicely styled. And if we don't want to have the labels here, for example, show only for the screen readers, we have a special class for that. So we would go here into class and add a class of SR for screen readers only. Okay. And with that, still there. Okay. Oh, bike names. Here, that one. Here it's gone. So, but when the screen reader comes over, he gets the extra class, sees that, or Bootstrap makes it so that the screen readers still get it because it's still in the HTML, but it is not visible for regular visitors of the website. Okay, on that one. Looks already way better than before, right? Okay. So only the text area, it's always a little different. So with that, let's go to the next one for checkboxes and radio buttons. So here we have our form again, and here we have some checkboxes and radio buttons. Okay. What did I write here? Okay. So then for checkboxes and radio buttons, we have both sets inside a div with a class of form group, so that these are kept together with that. Then we have a label that is basically for everything, and then we have the two inputs. And I also have labels around the inputs just to connect the yes to the input that is seen here outside. Okay. So then here inside I also have both of them inside divs. And here to the divs, we would add the class of form check, and also to the other one. And to the labels inside the divs, so these two, we need to add another class. And these are form check labels. Form check labels. Okay. So that's the Bootstrap way of doing it. You won't see too much style difference here if you do that, but this is all basically for screen readers to get them all linked together proper, so that they always know where you are again. Kind of like with the tables we had. So to align the radio buttons and the checkboxes to each other, or you want to have them inline, so you don't want to waste so much space. Let's do the inline. We go to the div of the form check. Okay, here. And add another class of form check inline. Okay. Now they're next to each other, so only one line and not stack on top of each other. So if you don't want to have them next to the label, you then would just give the label a class of display block, and then they're like this next to each other. And you can do the exactly same thing with the checkboxes. And if you have input fields, you can have the input fields bigger or smaller. Let's get here the name. Okay. Yeah, okay. And then you just go to the input field and add a class of form hyphen control. And then you can go, for example, large if you want to have a little bigger field, or small if you need a little smaller field. Okay. Then we can do multi-columns like we do with everything. We can have multiple columns in there. So here I have a basic form again. And I pretty much have everything set up like we learned so far. And now we make a 2-column layout out of that form here. And for that, let's just add a class of row to the div with the form group. Here. Row. And don't worry, all the styling will be broken a little bit. Oh, let's do the city and the zip together. So okay. Then to the label, we add the class of column form label. Call form label. Okay. And then we can also add another class of text, medium of right. And then also call medium of 2. So we're having the label spanned 2 grid columns in our row. And then to the input, we have to add a div. So we have to put the input inside the div with a class of column medium 10. That's the input. And then they're next to each other. So one takes 2 grid columns, the other one takes 10 grid columns, and every one of them is in a row. And let's put the same one in there for the address. Does it look like this for everyone? Okay. So for the city and the zip code, we have the labels hidden, so we have to do it a little different. So there we have an inner div and an outer div. So we have the inner div, the outer div. We have added the row already. Okay, and to the inner divs, we put a class of offset. And then for the medium size and 2 columns, and then just a regular column to take as much space as it needs. And then let's do the same thing for the second one. Okay. And then to the labels, we have to add the class of form, no, sorry, column form label. And then for the button, we wanted to put that one nice there. So for that, we have to put the button inside 2 divs. So let's create the first div with a class of form group and the class of row. And then inside there, we need another div with a class of offset. MD for the medium size 2 and the class of column hyphen auto. Okay, and then let's just put the button inside. And now the button is aligned to the input fields. Working for everyone? I know this is a very dry topic at the moment. Don't be scared. I remember not a lot of that. So I just remember that I have to put the divs around the stuff, but what classes exactly work for everything, I look up myself all the time. So this is just for you to see how it's built and then be able to decide what you want to use on what. Okay, questions to that one so far? No. Yeah, I have just one more where we have layout components, which is that one, layout multi-columns. Is it that one? Yeah, a little more fun one, not so complicated. where we can put different elements inside an input field to give additional information in there. Okay. So let's, for example, let's pick here the donation amount input. So it's down here. Okay. So we have to wrap the whole thing here with another div. And that one gets a class of input group. Okay. Okay. Yeah. Now the button is touching the whole thing here. Let's put the button with us here. Let's include our little button. Okay. Where did I have that one? Oh, that's up here. Oh, I'm sorry. I was in the wrong place. This is for the one here in the navigation. So here, the label and the button. Here inside we have the div with the class of input group. Okay. So, but now we see that these two are next to each other, but you see that the input field and the button have these rounded corners here in the inside. They don't look like they connect to each other, so they belong together. But we're going to check that. So now we have to put on the button an extra class, and that one is input group append. Okay. And with that, the button and the input field don't have these rounded corners in the middle anymore. So they look like they belong together. And with that technique, we can also put something else in here. Like I said, for the dollar amount. So we have here the label, and let's put after the label, we put a div inside with the class of input group, input hyphen group, and this is a text. Okay. And then in here we put a $sign. Okay, and then let's wrap the whole thing again with the div with a class of input group. And in a second, you see where I'm going with that. So here you see that these two are now together in one field. Okay. And the only thing we have to do is wrap the div where the dollar sign is in with another div to make them touch better again. So this is the one with div class input group. And this time we have prepend. Okay. Okay, now we have here an extra nicely field inside that one. So let's just create another one after it. So here after the input one, and this time let's just copy the whole thing down so we don't have to type so much anymore. But instead of prepend, we want to have append. Okay, and instead of a dollar sign, we might want to have only full dollar amount, so we put that there. That's how you would prepare something so that the user knows there's no pennies. Okay. Any questions to that? I know it was a dry one today. This is all I wanted to show you for today. So next class, we have interactive elements left, which are tooltips and popovers, where we play a little bit with JavaScript also to activate them. We have some alerts. We have accordions. So this is like if you have a Q&A section, if you just click on the question, the answer expands. And then modals. So if you click here something, you have something layered on top of your page. And then carousels, image carousels, you know, where the image slides over. And then a little bit of scroll spy so that you have your navigation automatically jump over to the next page. If you have a one page, for example, one page layout. To have an example here, show you what I mean with that. Is that one? Yeah, that should be. You have the scroll spy. Yeah, okay, let's preview that one so you see what I mean with that. So we have a very long page, and then at the moment I'm on the home, and as soon as I go deeper, you see mission is now highlighted. If I go to the next section, well, days of the week is highlighted, then flowers is highlighted, and then testimonials. So you can have that automatically done by Bootstrap for you. And yeah, and then I have shown you everything I want for Bootstrap. Then you can play around for your project.